That's cap.
Welcome to the KYP Podcast. This is another mini episode, a little segment where we learn more about our guest's journey into where they are today. My name is Danny. I'm here with my co-host.
KYP James.
Kevin G.
And we have Andy, who is Kevin's roommate.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah, man. This is my brother from Toronto.
Exactly it. We've been together for a year and a half and hopefully many more years to come.
So this mini segment, what we wanted to know basically is, number one, what do you do? How your upbringings, and what are your plans for the future, just for people to learn more about you. So
beautiful. How much
stay
time
tuned.
we have?
We got 20 minutes.
We got 20 minutes for
Good
you.
to know. So before I kick off, I am a bit of a storyteller. So if I do ramble or go on to a certain context, feel free to tell me to move on. We do have a lot of ground to cover, as I am aware. So let's get going. So a little bit about me, TLDR. I'm currently working in tech sales. I work for a company called DoorDash. We deliver your late night munchies and everything else in between. Started landing Sephora, groceries. So we're trying to cover all the bases in terms of becoming the local commerce of the world. And that's the vision of our CEO, Tony. But essentially, I've been working here for a little more than 2 years now. I'm on the enterprise team. I work as an account executive. The main part of my job really is just to help make sure the top 50 brands in Canada has a great partnership with us in terms of the MSAs, negotiations, the franchise buy-ins, and all that boring stuff. And yeah, it's been awesome. It's fully remote, so I've had the pleasure of enjoying myself with a little more flexibility than I used to when back in my banking jobs and other roles that I can get into a little bit later. But yeah, I've been with Kevin for a little bit over a year and a half. I've just moved back from Toronto. I was born in China, Chengdu, Sichuan Chengdu, and I moved over to Canada when I was 3 years old. What's very interesting is my mom kind of teased me with this, right? Like I moved over for a year just for preschool. Loved it. Like the teachers would give me muffins. I talked to like all the cool kids. I was one of the cool kids. Back then it was like one of those things where I just felt like it was like paradise, right?
Yeah,
the weather was amazing.
The difference between China and Canada
Precisely,
was
right?
uncanny.
And exactly. And I loved it here. There was actually no cons. It was all pros. But the problem was my parents didn't really enjoy it as much as I did, right? The narrative was very different for them. Comparably, I think they really did not enjoy Canada compared to China, and many reasons we can discuss later. Yeah. But essentially, we moved back when I was about 5 years old, unfortunately. I believe I was going to grade 1 at the time, and I was actually in China from grade 1 all the way to grade 5. Good thing about that is I am very bilingual. I can speak Chinese and work professionally in Chinese.
Oh, his Chinese is nice.
Amazing. It's all right. I try to.
He can sell in Chinese.
Wow.
I heard him on a call before. Like, yeah, that's different.
We can get into it a little bit later. But one of my first sales gig out of college, actually the first one, was a consulting company. But I was interacting with mostly Chinese clients.
Shit.
And like talking about in contracting terms, business terms was very challenging at first. But I think that foundation did help me jumpstart that career in the bilingual field. But yeah, moving back to that, basically was in China for 5 years. It's a bit of a crazy story. I won't get into it too much, but I did boarding school, and I'm not sure if you guys ever experienced like Asian boarding school, but it's pretty much like, imagine military, but more like a prison as well. So like, shit. right. So you get all this shit. They're like, we got to wake up so I was grade 1, right? Granted, I was like literally like not even hitting puberty. I was like yay high. They wake you up at 6 a.m. every morning for what we call like a morning run before the sun comes up. And obviously you go to the flag, you do your little salute, the whole shebang, right? But then the worst part is academically they also pressure you. So you're studying until 9:30. Something we call like 1zishi, which is like PM.
Yeah.
Oh, night studies. So you'll study till 9:30 and then you'll go to bed and you wake up at 6 a.m. every morning again. And the structure was that you would only see your parents once a week. So you would drop you off on a Sunday afternoon and they'll pick you up on a Friday afternoon. That's kind of how it was.
How long were you at the boarding school for?
2 years.
Right.
And then I gave my mom an ultimatum. I was like, I'm jumping off this fucking building, or all jokes aside, or you're gonna have to do something.
Yeah, I'm running away, or something's gotta change.
And the tough part, I feel like the hardest part about those years was I felt very disconnected from my family and my parents because they were traveling the world, going to like all the beautiful places in China, like Zhou, all those places. But I was seeing them once a week, and I was just grinding, like not really knowing a direction, not having a mentor. The chaperone was just this woman that like helped us clean and eat, but nothing with like how to live life, how to understand things, right? Yeah. So I think I didn't really have a direction in boarding school. Luckily for me, after continuously pressuring my mom, we ended up going back to Canada in grade 5. And for me, that was so I've stayed there since, right? And it was a game changer for me.
School must have been such a breeze compared to
math. Was like I wasn't a cool kid for sure, but during math, I felt like the cool kid. They're like, "Yo, Andy, can you see your answers?" Like, yeah, because I was doing like high school Canada high school math in like grade 1.
Yeah.
Like it was a whole different thing, right? But yeah, I grew up here from grade 5 all the way up until in Vancouver, really up until now. Like I grew up in Richmond, which is similar to Markham, as you guys know. Like very, very like Asian. Like a joke my mom's friend made was that she took an airplane for 14 hours from China. She got here, she's like, I feel like I didn't leave China.
Yeah.
Like the grocery stores are in Chinese, the servers are in Chinese. Like it's very nice. I think it's comfortable. But we can talk about why that's also not very good, I feel like, as an immigrant, and you're not really getting that full experience.
You're not assimilating.
Moving.
You're still in your little bubble.
Exactly,
You don't
right?
leave it.
It's a kind of like stay in your comfort zone. But we stayed there and my mom actually moved out now since she's retired. She's moved into like a lot more of a, multicultural neighborhood in Surrey. But yeah, I mean, I went to UBC for college. I also went to Stanford during my exchange in third year in California. I learned a lot from there, which we can also talk about a little bit later. There's like a whole can of worms. And then I got back, started a few companies. They kind of worked, kind of didn't. Really how you define success. But in my books, it was very successful. Very happy to see what I've done with all the people I work with, all the things we've been able to accomplish. And then moved to Toronto really right after college. Got my first offer that was locked in for Toronto like 6 months before graduation. Made sense just to make the move, commit everything. The scary part for me was I didn't have any friends, and growing up I was very lucky to be like you guys, surrounded by like childhood friends, kind of transferred to high school friends, transfers to college friends, right? Yeah. But going to Toronto, I wouldn't say overestimated myself, but I just didn't think too much about the social life. I'm like, I'll figure it out. Like, I have friends in Vancouver.
It's not the easiest place to meet people if you don't have warm knowledge.
Exactly, right. And especially imagine you don't have school, like a platform somewhere that you can connect similar interested people, right? So I'm going to work, going home, just Uber eating every day.
Yeah.
That kind of life. And I guess, moving back to COVID, I moved back to Vancouver for a bit. But now I'm here and in Toronto with my roommate, Kevin Jean, and living our best life, really.
And he's my first ever roommate experience, right? So... and so I always hear people complain about their roommates. They do this, they do
horror
that.
Stories.
But the connection with Andy, my best friend from college, basically roomed with him a couple years before me. And then when he heard that I was making the move to Toronto, it just so happened to be his time too. Our timeline matched up.
Same month. We got on a call. Literally, I've only met Kevin once at a bar for like a few minutes before. Like that was our only encounter. Yeah. And then we signed it like before even like meeting him face to face. We signed a contract for a year, locked it in.
Damn.
Yeah, we did it.
We pretty much made the formal introduction in our house.
It was like word of mouth. Like, you fuck with my boy. I fuck with you.
Yeah, and I guess we were a little bit more mature in the sense of like we did have a call. Like we had like a
we had a little interview kind of.
Nice.
Yeah, it was more like those like speed dating things. I was just asking him how Kevin's like, you dirty? Like, are you unpunctual? Do you party a lot? Just kidding, checking all the boxes. I'm like, Kevin, are you driven? Like, anyways, we had a whole conversation.
You like 2K?
Exactly, right? But in terms of, I think, rooming with Kevin, what was really exciting for me and reason why I'm here, guys, is I actually have a podcast of my own that I started when I moved to Toronto.
Oh shit!
Yeah. So when I moved over, I had no friends. I had a lot of time by myself and a lot of thoughts. So I'd just go to coffee shops, really write things down, like document my thoughts, my process, whether that's good or bad, and like how I grew from it. And at one point, I started listening to podcasts on my commute, and I was like, hey, these guys have very good points. I feel like I can articulate some of my own, and maybe these guys are helping me a lot with my lifestyle. I was wondering if my perspective could help other people. That's kind of how it started. And my whole persona was like, I'm going to just document it for myself and my own growth. But if I can one person can benefit out of a million, I've outdone myself, that type of theory. And the name of the podcast is called Mind Diary. So I shared that with Kevin. And you guys, the podcast you guys have, KYP, really resonate with what I have. And Kevin, you can speak on that.
Yeah, a lot of our earlier conversations were kind of surrounded that, right? Because I watched this podcast before I met him. I was listening to it before I moved to Toronto, right?
Oh, okay.
So when we got there, when we were getting to know each other, we obviously talked about the inspiration behind starting both our podcasts. And it's all, very aligned with kind of self-reflection and growth and identifying our ego and realizing that a lot of our, maybe flaws or areas of improvement come from mismanagement of our ego, right? Or mismanagement or not being conscious of our mental or emotional states.
Yeah.
And kind of being able to swallow our pride. I know early on you were telling me about your basketball journey, right? He's always been an athlete. You play badminton and everything, but basically when I met you, you started basketball for, it was the first year you were playing basketball.
Exactly, yeah.
And his handles were shit. He has videos like
it wasn't very, very great. I was they called me prison ball. Because I was still giving him my all on defense, right? But the offense wasn't there. It was more like Patrick Beverly. Like nobody really wanted to play with me. But
the growth arc was very interesting to see.
You nice now, man. We played this morning, baby.
It was a fun session. Definitely was hot out there, but we gave it our best. And I think one takeaway from basketball, and we can talk about that, applies to everywhere else in life. I think my mentality is like, if someone is better than me at something, for me, it's almost common sense for me to be like, hey, you are better than me. Let's first acknowledge that. Right, so it's easier to for you to tell me what to do, and now how can I be more like you in this regard, right? I think to be better at anything, it's the first step is knowing like your shortcomings and working on them, right? And I give you an example, like I have peers that have been playing for a very long time, and that does play with me, and it's like the mentality isn't like maybe they can take something from my game. You know what I mean? Nobody really sees it that way. And I think that's the only difference. And I'll give you guys an anecdote. It's like, I used to take pride in playing defense as my offense is so terrible, right? So whenever I go on any pickup court, I would always try to guard their best player just to challenge myself. And one day I did meet my match. I met this guy from overseas basketball pro. He plays from like Serbia, played in University of Alberta, super, super insane hooper. He destroyed me. And it was embarrassing, right? It was like a 4-on-4 game, but he would just call isolation. So he's like, everybody get out of the way. I just 1v1 him, like Kobe style, right? And it was just 5 minutes of straight buckets. Like we played 2 games. One game we didn't even touch the ball. Like, because every time you scored, they would take the ball again, right? Yeah. He scored like 8 times on a row on me.
Wow, perfect victory.
It was like, I've never been defeated so bad, right? And in those scenarios, when I haven't been stumped on this hard before, I could either been like, yo, this guy's just got lucky, he's shit. I like walk away, be mad, punch a wall, or I can go up to him right after the game, introduce myself, tell him about my story and how I'm passionate about basketball and how, seeing you inspires me because I know there's way more to the game now. Can you play one-on-one with me? Damn. So that guy actually played one-on-one with me, cooked me many times, but now I'm actually beating him quite a few times now. So it's just like a progression journey, right? Like,
and because you approach him like that, he's he's happy to give you pointers. Like, this is how I do this. My footwork here.
There's no ego involved, right? We're just talking for the passion of the game. It's very much like, hey, I'm acknowledging it. You are better. Could you be like? It's easier for someone to like, for example, Danny. Like, if I asked you to teach me how to fix the motorcycle, it's a lot easier to be coming at you with this. I want to learn from it rather than I'm challenging you. Yeah. Are you sure it's this way? Are you sure you do that? That's annoying. So I feel like whenever you see someone that's better, to build a relationship and for them to like you, you should take a step back, understand you've put more time and energy and investment into this.
Don't take it personally.
Exactly.
Don't be defensive.
Right, exactly. And if it's something you're passionate about, it doesn't mean you can't put the time and effort that he did. Right? It's just like, it's a journey. Everyone has their own timeline. And just because they're better than you now doesn't mean they'll always be if their mentality is right.
Yeah. So I think it's that mindset that really resonated with me.
Killing your ego.
Yeah.
For sure.
And trying to learn.
So in terms of, with that mindset, do you think that you reached a certain point in your career? That's why you wanted to transition from the banking corporate into what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to unpack in terms of my career. Just to give you context, I've worked maybe like we can run it down, but maybe like 12 jobs already in my life.
Is it all sales related, Andy?
Not necessarily. I mean, I started as a construction worker when I was 15 legally, because like 16 is the legal age you can work, right? My mom has like this friend who has like a private construction company, so like just go and be the butler or whatever, right? So but what I was doing, so like at the time, to give you context, I was feeling myself, right? Grade 10, I started working out, got a little bicep. I'm like, Mom, put me there. Put me in, coach, right?
Easy work.
I'm so excited. I go literally the first day, I couldn't feel my lower back because it's not pretty work, right? Yeah. Like I'm just carrying wood from this car to this car for 10 hours in the scorching heat. Yeah. It's not something that I feel like it's like people don't flex about it. Mm-hmm. It is not like you can even feel that accomplished. You just feel drained. Yeah. And I guess for that, transitioning to, long story short, it was probably the worst job of my life. And how that job actually ended, how I had to quit, was because I couldn't afford I just didn't want to spend $200 on metal boots because I'm like, it's a summer job. Like, I'll just wear my Converse. And one day I actually slept through a nail on the construction site because we were removing stuff, right? It didn't go through my feet, luckily, but it did go pretty deep. And that was kind of like, okay, I've learned. It's been 2 months. Mom, I understand money is hard to make. I'm going to figure something out in my life. This physical...
Scared straight.
For sure. I mean, the physical... I just realized that physical traits does not kind of give you any like compensation in the monetary sense, right? So I had to find other ways, smarter ways to make money. I guess that's how I started. And then I did a few jobs. I worked at a bubble tea shop. I worked at a suit store actually called Ted Baker. I'm sure
Ted Baker.
Yeah, I know Ted Baker.
And I feel like Ted Baker was actually when I first actually started like selling.
Yeah, that was your first encounter to sales.
Because before that, I did work at retail sales at Abercrombie and Fitch, but that wasn't like product sales itself, right? Customers are coming to buy Abercrombie and Fitch, not Andy. But when I was at Ted Baker, people would be coming, hey, where's Andy? I need to get my suit measure, whatever.
Nice.
So it felt more like a consultative way of selling. I had touch points. I was talking to all these like very high level individuals who were looking to get a wedding or a professional. So for me, it was like, oh, like I actually really enjoy these communications. I do enjoy closing deals, and I do enjoy making my customers feel good. What maybe there's something here, right? I'm transitioning to that. I worked at the bank, but majorly in sales. I was like, basically, context for this is I worked as a teller for a month. I feel like I was a very good teller because of my energy. I was very sweet to the grandmas. I'd always say please and thanks to everybody. So in 8 months, they actually promoted me to become an advisor. But the caveat with this was that I was still in college, right? So I was a full-time student in my fourth year. Yeah. But they're like, hey, look, we want to give you an office, want to give you a book of business, get you licensed up, we'll pay for your license. But the catch is you have to give us 35 hours of work a week. There's no reason for us to invest in you if you can't even put that hours in. So I didn't want to let that opportunity slip. So in fourth year, I actually did like Tuesday, Thursday, I'd put my classes from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'd actually just
hustle.
Saturday as well. Yeah. I'd go to the office.
Working a full-time job while
pretty much, man. Pretty much. And at the time, I was also started my first company called Prep Your Meal. Very interesting project. I'd love to tell you guys about a little bit later, maybe on the other segment.
Meal prepping?
Meal prep, exactly. Nice. But it was specific to fitness and specifically for college students.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's kind of and pivoting to that, I got the first job in Toronto, which is also BD. Did that for a while, and then I went to an international business company, sold PPE during the COVID days. I was selling gloves, masks, industrial supply. So basically like to all the big McDonald's, Starbucks, stuff like that. And then after that, I realized that I am really, really interested and I'm passionate about sales. And I think I can talk to people, but I realized that like the industry does matter. Like what you sell does matter.
Yeah,
I'll give you an example of Kevin, right? We're both in sales, but his day-to-day is like 10 times more strenuous than mine. And the big reason is because I'm selling a software, something I can essentially make up the roadmap of what it can be in a month or 2 months. And what we already have isn't going to be like expired or manipulated. For example, his inventory is people. It's people. Right? Say he lined this guy up for an interview. This guy's a top candidate. Next day, his mom, he calls, my mom passed away. I can't come to this interview. What are you going to say? Nothing. You got to move on, figure it out. So there's just a lot of like uncontrollable variables in a lot of the other industries, which is why I moved to, I guess, tech. Because I feel like with tech, the sales rep has a lot more control in terms of how you want to articulate this product and a lot of control over the quality of the product as well, right? And last thing but not least, the flexibility is amazing. Thanks to COVID, most of the tech jobs at least in tech sales are remote, which gives me that a benefit of, planning my own schedule, having, essentially being your own boss in a certain way, right? In sales, they don't really check in on you. My goals are all quarterly. Yeah. So as long as I hit my quarterly goal, I could be here. I could be here. I could be anywhere. I could be in Greece. And it kind of like that, yeah.
So I just want to wrap it up here because I think we're about to hit the time. Would you say you found your calling in sales? Because you kind of went a few different routes and then you kind of got that first sales job and continued down the road.
Yeah. I think I found my calling in terms of the style of life I want to have. I think in terms of what I can sell, I don't want to necessarily, I'm passionate about selling a DoorDash product. I don't think I found necessarily
the profession of
exactly
of
the
selling,
the process of business development, I think is definitely something I want to keep diving into, but I don't think I found the specific niche of what I want to be selling.
The industry.
Exactly. But I do agree, like this is definitely trending towards, I'm getting more and more confident each year that this is industry, or at least this is a direction that I'm comfortable in.
And fits your skill sets.
It fits my skill set. At the end of the day, I think that's what's the most important, right? Like obviously every Asian parent wants you to be a lawyer, doctor, candlestick maker.
He tried that too.
It's the exact same pitch. Me and Kevin actually resonated a lot over our first call because I was telling him that my dad's a lawyer, and the first thing that he told me when I was out of the womb was like, you're gonna have your law degree. I don't care if you practice it, but you need to have it. Yeah. But then in a day and age like this, it's like, I'm not gonna spend 10 years of my life, my prime of my youth, on books, possibly not use it just because you said so. Like that doesn't resonate with me anymore, right? But then growing up, it was a lot of pressure. It was like, oh man, like gotta get my studies right, gotta get straight A's, gotta get everything right. And that actually backfired a lot. We could talk about
it. Didn't?
No, it didn't. I think growing up, the constant pressure of needing to be better actually made me not want. I was a little
turned
bit more,
me off of
exactly. It made me more rebellious because I didn't have a direct incentive for me to do it.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I want to make my dad happy, but like,
not you.
like, you know, like exactly. But it all changed after a while, and I'll get into that in our later sessions if you guys tune in. But yeah, that's kind of a rundown.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think to wrap up the episode, where can we find you, or anything you'd like to plug in?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, if you guys are ever interested in checking out Mind Diary, it's called Mind and then just Diary. It's streaming on all platforms, Apple, Spotify, whatever. It really talks about a lot of things we're going to get into in our upcoming episodes as well. Unpacking a lot of ego, self-development, self-reflection. Like I said, a lot of podcasts used to be prescriptive. And I think, honestly, that's amazing to have like Tim Ferriss or a lot of the podcasts when they invite like the most specialized people to like coach you, give you the best regimen plan. But I think everyone is very unique and different. And I don't think we like these methods are one size fit all. That's why my podcast, even your podcast, is very descriptive, right? It's very like our feelings, how we feel, and whatever you can take away, you can take away. But that's kind of the direction I'm going. It's not like I'm never telling you what to do. It's more like, this is what I do. If this can make you feel a certain way or make you not want to do what I do, that's still a great takeaway. That's kind of the angle I'm playing at for that.
Perfect. So if you enjoyed this little episode, stay tuned for the full episode coming out in a few days. As always, my name is Danny. I'm here with my co-host,
KYP James.
KG.
Take it easy.
And remember,
to KYP.
Kill your pride, baby.
Kill your pride.
Yeah, 내게 전화번호 물어. One more drink, I'ma get you like Luda. Yeah, I'ma make you lose your mind. 단지 네가 궁금할 뿐 웃지 마. 좀 목이 타는 girl, 따라와, I'ma buy you drink, girl.